if we're looking ahead, like, 3 to 5 years, what do you think, or like, how does best-in-class B2B commerce really look like between the buyers and the suppliers? And Ines, I would perhaps just hand it off to you for the first response here.
Sure. Gosh, looking ahead 3 to 5 years, I believe that best in class B2B commerce will probably feel effortless, if that makes sense. So it's something that happens in the back, and it's not really visible or noticeable. And also it becomes radically more predictable for suppliers. Right, supported by AI probably, but also driven by humans. So it's still AI, the data that is helping AI to be more effective, more efficient, but the humans are still there to maintain the relationships that we all need in B2B trade. I believe that buyers will transact on trusted and pre-approved terms that adapt automatically, for example, to their behavior. But also suppliers having real-time visibility into risk and cash flow and exposure, without having real manual intervention. So yeah, there's a lot. I believe in 3 to 5 years that's gonna happen, both on the digitalization and how people are more effective and more efficient, if that makes sense. And I think that ultimately agentic commerce, for example, will automate routine decisions, and humans can stay, firmly in the loop for that matter, setting strategy and exceptions, and again, the commercial relationships that matter most, right? But yeah, the winners won't be the most automated companies probably, but I would say the ones that combine automation with human judgment and using technology to scale trust, not replace it. That would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, fully agree here. And perhaps I think you already touched up like, agentic commerce, and that's obviously like, a word that is like highly associated in the context of B2B commerce. And perhaps, Alan, for you, the question as it comes to, what is best in class effectively looks like, and what's your perspective around, stable coins, agentic commerce, and that specific context as well?
So I love, Inez, your point of radically more predictable. I think this is what a lot of merchants and buyers, they're looking for more predictability, right? You look at the macro environment and, tariffs are set today and then they disappear tomorrow and then they come back, and there's a lot of uncertainty. But I think this notion of radically more predictable is a pretty nice vision, right? And it builds on trust. I think that's, there's some good articles now being written about this sort of, are you going to lose that trust element when you take on more AI? And certainly if you don't do it properly, you will. One point on stablecoin, I think that's coming quickly. We haven't seen that demand within our network over the last couple of years, but we're now seeing it in certain sectors. We're working on a solution right now, so that will be part of the sort of the portfolio. So I think that's, watch that space. I've been kind of a late adopter of all things crypto, but I can see that stablecoin feels like the right mix of kind of Wild West and, backing a bank or something like that. So it really feels like the right type of solution. It's the time for that. Second, I'm going to take sort of a contrarian view against agentic, that I think there's going to be more backlash against everything agentic. And this is as an old AI guy that was doing this before people were, there was a hype cycle back then, but this AI isn't new. How people apply it and the compute and the data is new. So I think that the future is going to be this balance. I think, as you hinted at it, where people apply AI and agentic in certain parts of the process and certain parts of how they interact, but especially like in high touch businesses, and what traditional B2B businesses aren't high touch and built on trust and having a person that you trust. I think that trust starts with, talking to your favorite rep or your favorite support person. And if you think that you're going to automate that out of the equation, I think that's a mistake. But giving them tools that allow them to have a more fulfilling, more complete conversation with their seller counterpart. I think that is smart. So I think that we have to make sure we have that balance, and then we can't lose track of that even as we look for more places to apply AI. So I think if you start with trust, you start with the relationship, you balance experience with automation. There's so many wonderful ways you can apply AI, but if you try to use AI to cut the people out of the equation, I think that's a mistake.